Hi and hello everybody. Welcome to week 3 of Popping Culture. I'm Adrian.
I'm Jay.
And welcome back. Today, Jay, what do we got in front of us?
Looks like this week we are going to be consuming some Maker's Mark whiskey.
Sure are.
And this is a brand new bottle. You are literally peeling the slightly waxy cover off of this right now.
It's actually wax cover on here. They actually dip each one still in with melted wax.
Okay, which is why we see it running down the bottle. I've never actually opened a bottle of Maker's Mark myself, so that's a new experience.
It is one of my preferred ones, and for you, neat.
I'm all about the neat when it comes to my my straight alcohol.
And for me, on the rocks.
There you go.
Some of you may notice things a little different today, different microphones. Jay and I tend to move around so much and constantly touch our shirts, I guess, awkwardly enough.
We readjust
do
ourselves
this
so that,
a lot.
brush off the shoulder.
So we went with the Shure mic, so that way we can not bother you all.
Yeah, we noticed when I was editing last week, I noticed that there's a lot of movement caught on the lavalier mic, so we're trying something a little different.
Yes. The other thing we're going to try different for next week is not to gorge ourselves before a podcast. Oh.
Yeah. So the last couple of weeks we've made the mistake, not the mistake of drinking necessarily before the podcast. It's always good to have a little bit of warm up.
A couple beers is never a problem.
And we do that over at Special Brews, which is great. But we've made the mistake both this week and last week of having a decent-sized meal beforehand.
You say a decent-sized meal, people. I've seen on Thanksgiving less food being consumed.
That's true, yeah.
So we're going to try to be a little more awake next week with a salad.
Yeah, we'll try a little healthy to go with our alcohol. Yeah. But, yeah, we had, I don't even know what you ordered. We went to a Mexican carniceria this week.
What? I know you're saying that. Don't
no,
say that how you say
I'm really trying to pronounce it.
It is a carniceria.
Carniceria. So, yeah, I had some chicken and mole. You had torta.
We had a torta, which is a nice Mexican sandwich. We had some cabeza tacos, which for these who are not familiar with cabeza, literal translation is head. The meat we actually consumed was cheeks.
Okay. Well, I've had weirder things. But, yeah, so we had a little much. So if we seem a little out of it, that's why. But we do have our alcohol to get us picked back up.
I liked that it's never the alcohol that makes us tired.
No.
It's the amount of food we have.
Alcohol will make everything better.
Speaking of which, cheers.
Cheers. I believe it was the great philosopher Homer Simpson that once said, alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems.
I actually haven't encountered a problem yet that alcohol didn't solve.
No, not at all.
Because worst comes to worst, I just sleep it off.
There you go.
Problem solved.
All right.
All right. So we're going to try, last week we tried for a shorter episode and we got 15 minutes shorter. We're going to try for like a whole half hour shorter. So we're going to jump right into things.
Okay, here we go.
TV.
Okay, we'll start with TV.
Off, but
okay, so last week I was talking about I was finishing up Game of Thrones, finished that up, caught up on that. The girlfriend Jessica and I, we started on Californication, which I had mentioned.
Right.
One of the really nice things about Californication, it's a Showtime series, which means it's only 12 episodes a season. So we finished one DVD, and we were halfway through the season because they were half-hour-long episodes, so 28 minutes without commercials. 2.5 hours, we're caught up with half of the first season. And then, wouldn't you know it, Netflix goes and put it on Instant Watch.
Look, it makes it easier. You were saying your queue is now below 200 discs?
I've got under 200 discs on my queue, and that's because a lot of the shows I have on there only have the first season on there. But for all appearance's sake, I'm under 200 discs.
That's the important part. Under 200 is a manageable Netflix queue until next Tuesday when new DVDs come out.
I'm on a hard and fast rule. I'm not adding anything new to my Netflix.
No, that's... I have to disagree with this theory.
I am 6 months into this rule, and it's proved out well.
Every Monday, you log on to Netflix, you see what's new release, you add the good things to your queue. You do the same thing with Hulu. Every Monday, you go through what's new, add the good things to your queue.
I don't do it. I can't do it. I need to get all of the stuff that's on my queue now, at least, I need to get under, 50 DVDs before I even think about anything new. And that's not including my Netflix Instant queue, which I'm still at 60 and a half full days of content on.
Do you get vacation with your work?
I do. I don't have any right now, because I've used it. I have about a day and a half.
I recall. We've been traveling recently.
Yes. Yeah.
However, with that said, maybe it's time you use some of the vacation, accrue it. Next time, let's not go to Calgary. Let's...
Staycation?
No, you know what? Let's go to Calgary and watch Netflix after the Comic-Con.
But here's the thing. And I found this out last time we were in Canada. I didn't know this. there is different content available on Netflix in Canada than there is in the US. Some of the stuff you can get here is not available there. You can get stuff there that you can't watch here.
Actually, a lot of the stuff that's available in other countries on Netflix is not available here. And the reason for that is just distribution.
Right.
So you can actually, there's a program called Ola.
Right.
That you can actually tell Netflix you're in a different location.
Yeah.
Australia, folks. If you're going to do this, choose your location as Australia. They have the loosest rules and the most available on Netflix instant.
Okay.
So I've been binge watching Arrow, as we talked about.
Right.
I'm almost done with the first season.
Which is good because the second season's back in a week and a half.
Third season.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got confused. DC just announced Arrow Season 2.5 digital comic, so it's weird.
They do that. Like season 13 of Smallville comics just out.
Right.
Anyways, it's getting better. It's definitely more palatable than it was to begin with. I'm not looking forward to season 3. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
It's the same thing that happened with me with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You started out with Buffy. She was the heroine, and she had sidekicks.
Right.
Xander and Willow. By the end of the show, Xander was a military strategic. Willow was a lesbian witch. There was a werewolf. There was like every one of her human sidekicks somehow became super powered and amazing.
Okay.
Same thing's happening in Arrow. Diggle's becoming this uber badass. The girl, the blonde girl who I can't remember with the computers,
Felicity.
She gets a super costume in the next season.
Okay.
Laurel, I believe, gets a costume in the third season.
Well, that's not confirmed. It's rumored. It's speculated that she will take over the mantle of somebody else that we saw in second season.
Okay, because I believe it's her dressed as the Canary in the spoiler images I saw today.
Okay.
And then you have Arsenal. Like, it's getting to the point where it's not Arrow, it's Arrow and Friends.
Well, okay, fair enough.
So I'm still going to watch it, and I'm going to keep an open mind. I'm just hoping it doesn't turn into an ensemble cast.
I think what they're trying to do with it is they're trying to expand the TV universe.
Sure.
So you had Barry Allen show up on Arrow in season 2. Now you have a Flash TV show starting this.
But you're not going to get a Diggle TV show.
But you may get something like a Suicide Squad TV show. And they've hinted that Diggle is going to be in charge of Suicide Squad. He led a Suicide Squad mission in season 2. So if they had a spin-off Suicide Squad show, there's a perfect outlet for Diggle.
I'm going to keep my options open, my mind open, and continue to watch it.
I totally understand what you're saying about not having so many people on one show. But I think what they're doing is building for possible universe expansion.
Well, one of the possible universe expansions they mentioned today was Supergirl.
Right.
They want to make Supergirl a TV show.
I would be super okay with that. I'm one of the few people that I know that actually still reads Supergirl the comic. A lot of people gave up on it. I've been reading it since she came back in Batman Superman
Issue 6, the Jeff
6. I couldn't remember if it was 6 or
Yep. Jeff Loeb, Michael Turner.
So yeah,
Yep.
I've been reading her since then. Yeah, there's storylines I haven't liked, but I think she could translate to TV, especially, and this is going to sound weird, but I think she could especially translate to a CW show, because one of the things CW does is teen drama stuff.
Absolutely.
She's 17. No matter what storyline you throw in, she's 17.
She's 17. She's scared in a world she doesn't know. She much like Superman, however, he was raised here.
Right.
She wasn't.
And that's one of the things I always point out to people is they're like, oh, well, it's just some knockoff of Superman. I'm like, no. Superman, as a baby, got sent to Earth. He was raised as an Earth child who had powers. This is the environment he's always known. Now, take somebody from an alien world, throw them on a planet after they're already 16, 17 years old, and then they develop the powers.
Right.
It's a totally different...
Absolutely. I'll give you that. And if that comes out, I'm looking forward to it.
I would much rather have that than iZombie.
It's happening.
I know it is. That's what I'm saying.
It's happening.
I don't need to see some girl that works in a morgue that like chews on people to get their memories or whatever her thing is.
I saw the bag for it when I was in San Diego Comic-Con, and that was enough for me alone. Just, I'm surprised my eyes have come back to normal after rolling so hard. Speaking of continuing on the binge TV show, Last Man Standing.
Right. You said, I think last week you were saying season 2 not so great.
Season 2 not good at all. And I'm on a roller coaster of Tim Allen emotions, man.
Okay.
Because season 1 was really good. Like, I know it sounds strange to say like, oh, season 1 was great. Watch Last Man Standing. It was really good. Season 2, not so good. 3 is coming back strong.
Okay.
I'm back in.
So not as many Obama jokes in season 3.
Not as Obama jokes. I mean, there's a couple, but the characters have developed to the point where they're no longer annoying. The new characters don't get on my nerves. There is a story arc throughout the whole season, not just the exact same formula throughout every episode.
Okay.
There is an overarching arc.
So it's not a one and done every
Not a one and done like season 2 was. So I'm looking forward to that coming back for season 4. That'll definitely be caught up on by the time that comes around.
Okay.
And I just started a new show, Drunk History.
We could be doing that ourselves, I suppose.
I think it's going to take more than one bottle of Makers, my friend.
Well, fair enough. So Drunk History, for those of you that don't know, is it's a Comedy Central show, I believe.
It is a Comedy Central source that was originally based off a Funny or Die skit.
Right, Funny or Die, the Will Ferrell website.
Right. And essentially it is celebrities who get rip-roaring drunk and retell historic stories. While they're telling the stories, they're narrating, and there's comedic actors acting these roles out, like in costume, lip-syncing to what the drunk person's saying.
So it's essentially a skit where people drunkenly try to retell history.
Right. And then comedic actors actually act out those roles with the dialogue as the drunk person's telling it, lip-sync to it. And it's funny because, let's say, for instance, the narrator is so drunk he throws up or sneezes. The Abraham Lincoln character does it, and it's really funny. I've watched about 4 episodes of it.
Okay.
It's not something I can sit down and binge watch, like true binge watch, like watch a season in a sitting.
Right.
It's great background noise. It's great when I'm playing a video game, stuff like that.
Okay.
And speaking of video games, we are going to skip movies this week. PAX was in town. For those of you who I'm sure have heard, we're Seattle local, which means PAX Prime was in our backyard. One of us went for a day. One of us went for 10 minutes. So we're going to do video games. And the way I can say it's good background noise for video games is I love my Xbox. I really like my Xbox One. I don't love it. I like it. But I love my DS, my 3DS. So I've been playing that a lot with Scribblenauts Unmasked. It's the DC equivalent of Scribblenauts.
Right.
It's a lot of fun. It's somewhat challenging,
Okay.
honestly, because it is completely up to your imagination. You need to assist all the DC Universe superheroes because you have a character named Maxwell. Whatever he writes in his
last name Lord? No? Okay. I just, okay.
No. You know, Jay?
I'm just saying, it's a DC Comics reference.
I don't interrupt you.
Sorry.
Come on, man.
So, you're Maxwell.
You're Maxwell.
Smart.
Okay, that one I did not see coming,
Okay.
so cheers. So you're Maxwell, and anything you write in your little notebook comes alive. So, or you can click on Batman and give him an adjective, and whatever adjective you give him happens. So
Okay.
you could click on Batman and write huge. He grows bigger than everybody else, and he can defeat the villains.
So it's like Mad Libs of the DC Universe.
It is such a good reference. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was trying to think of a great way to describe it. It is Mad Lib's video game. The thing is, though, if you repeat the same word, it's less powerful every time. So you have to think of like different words, and there are little puzzles. Like you need to get Metallo off this ledge without knocking him unconscious.
Okay.
So I was going to tie a rope to him and tie a rope to a plane and make it fly away. The problem was I used rope earlier. So now the rope wasn't strong enough to pull Metallo.
Okay.
So now I had to think of something else. So it's a little bit challenging.
No, that actually sounds really cool.
But it's super fun.
Yeah.
It's also available on the Wii U. So tell me about what you're playing.
So, as you mentioned, I'm going to go and tell my PAX story because it's slightly ridiculous. PAX was in town this last weekend, 4-day super gaming convention, video games and board games and card games and whatever. I'd never been before, but somebody I know had some passes, 4-day passes. They'd gone Saturday morning and had finished by the afternoon. They weren't going to go back, so they're like, hey, you want to take your passes? You and your girlfriend go down. Sure. So I'm reading on the pass, and it says that PAX hours, it goes till midnight. So I'm like, cool, we'll get down there, 5:30-ish. We'll hang out for a couple hours, go get dinner, drink, whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's in the Washington State Convention Center, and for those who've been there, there's kind of a big exhibition room and a sky bridge and another big exhibition room. So we come in through one end of the exhibition room. We walk through, we go across the sky bridge. As we're getting into the second room, the enforcers, which is the staff there, say, all right, guys, floor's closed. See you tomorrow. We literally walked for 10 minutes.
Yep.
So we go out into the hallway, and I look And there's another line on the badge that says that the expo floor closes at 6, but there's outside content until midnight. So we seriously saw we walked past the Nintendo booth, we walked past the Sony booth, we walked past the Xbox booth, but we didn't stop and look at anything because we can kind of get a full tour of the floor and then kind of go and look some stuff.
Which is pretty common for comic conventions or any convention. Really, you get the lay of the land, and then you go, okay, this is what I need to go to. For those of you who have not been to PAX, they spend millions, and I'm not even being facetious. As an insider in the industry, they literally spend millions of dollars on these displays for one day.
Right. It's not like Emerald City Comic Con. If you go to that, each publisher or whatever has a booth that kind of has a banner and then people sitting at it. It's pretty plain. This is big. This is a trade show. This isn't a spectator convention. This is a trade show. They're trying to get you in there to see their wares and to buy their things. It's a production. So
one of the ones that I thought was really impressive last year was a tree, and it was literally about 15 feet tall, fiberglass tree. Hanging from the tree was monitors and controllers because you're playing a jungle game.
Oh, that's really cool.
And it was really cool. But to see like the size of it and how well it was done and the intricacies of it was amazing. And then to find out that display was $1.7 million for a game after demoing, I did not want to buy.
No.
But what are you playing?
So because of the PAX thing, the girlfriend and I, we decided we want to go get some new games. And by new games, I mean used games. I'm not a huge gamer. I've played some things over the years, but I've never got really into these. The biggest thing I ever got into was like Midnight Club, which is the racing game. I was super into that for a while. But so we go to GameStop and we're looking through. I picked up. They have the Mass Effect trilogy, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, all the Commander Shepard games. I had never played Mass Effect, but I've heard great things about it. So I'm like, I'll pick it up. I can get all 3 of them for $20. No big deal.
Sure.
I picked up Assassin's Creed Revelation, which I can't play yet because I've only ever played the first one, so I need to fill in the gap.
Oh yeah, dude, you can't play Revelations. They all continue.
It's the story. Yeah,
they continue off each other.
But
Absolutely.
it was $5, so I'm like, I'm gonna grab it while it's $5. Okay. I'll fill in the rest later.
You can borrow my copies.
All right. And then we got, what else did we get? Harry Potter Lego years 1 through 4, just because it's fun.
It's so much
All
fun.
those Lego games are super fun. But anyway, so I started playing Mass Effect. And I was telling you earlier, I've played a couple hours already, but being that I've never played it, and because I'm such the completionist, as we've talked before, I'm still at the point where I am talking to every person that I can talk to. I am asking every question I can, and I'm running around to every little bit of every level. So I've done the first mission where you're on the outpost trying to get the relic, the Prothean beacon, whatever. And now I'm back to the Citadel, and I'm going in every little shop and bar and everything in the Citadel, talking to every person, every little ambassador in every office. So really, I could probably be almost halfway done with the game by now, but because I have to talk to everybody and get all the information, I've barely scratched the surface.
I didn't have the heart to tell this to Jay earlier while we were having a couple beers, and I want to tell you now because I want to see your reaction. You know you're talking to everybody in the Citadel?
Yeah.
Okay.
None of it matters.
No, what happens is they're all side missions.
Right.
And what will happen is you'll get through the whole Citadel, and you'll go through the entire place, like take your trams and the trains and do everything, and you'll find out some of the missions put you all the way back to the beginning of the Citadel, and you have to work your way all through it again. So, good luck.
Well, here's to a few more hours in the Citadel. But they have the rapid transit.
They do have the rapid transit. I played Mass Effect. I'm not that much farther than you because I did the same thing.
Right.
I've played for, I think I put in about 4 hours of gameplay is what it told me. And I just left the Citadel, and I was like, I'm going to go back to Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. See, and I fully admit that I'm doing way more than I need to do right now. Mm-hmm. But like I said, this is the first time I ever played it. That'll wear off. Eventually, I'll get to the point where I'll skip talking to everybody altogether, unless I absolutely have to, unless it's mission critical. But I also know that I have 2 and 3 to go after this. So
I totally respect that type of gameplay. That's actually how I play the Assassin's Creed games. So it takes me a year, almost a year and a half to get through an Assassin's Creed game.
Okay.
Because I do take breaks in between. So right now I'm playing one, and I'll take a break because I've been playing it too much for a couple months, and I'll play like Injustice is what I just finished. Because I get every side mission, every feather, every flag, every costume, every piece of art, everything possible in these games.
See, and I consider doing that when I played through one, but I'm like, 400 flags? No, I'll stick with 12.
Nope. I'll do it.
Yeah.
And
But see, that's what I did with Arkham City, the second Batman game.
yep, Arkham City.
I went and I did every side mission. I got every little Riddler question mark, everything like that. The first one, I skipped all that. I just did the story mode. Second one, I'm like, I got time. I'm going to get question marks. I would never do that again.
No, what? Why?
It took me probably about 5, maybe 6 hours to play through the regular game. I put in another 30 hours, 35 hours getting all the question marks.
Consider it getting your money's worth.
But I got nothing for getting them.
Yeah, in Assassin's Creed, when you collect all the feathers, which are not on your map, by the way, you have to find those things.
Yeah.
In the second Assassin's Creed, when you find all the feathers, Ezio's mother tells you 2 sentences. 2 sentences.
Cool.
Yeah.
Totally worth it.
Absolutely worth it. Also, you may be hearing my phone vibrating currently. I did not mute it. I put it on vibrate for a particular reason, and that is because the Seahawks game. I'm wearing my 12 shirt. We were at the bar earlier. Jay, ready for the final score?
Let's do it.
Packers 16, Seahawks 36.
All right. That means we're going to win the Super Bowl again, right?
Statistically speaking, no.
Okay, fair.
As a Seattle fan, yeah.
But, we've won 1/15th of our 1/15th of our games this season.
Yeah, we're well on our way there. Well on our way there.
We've won 100% more games than the Broncos have now.
And the Packers.
And the Packers.
There it
Sorry,
is.
that's what I meant. I was thinking of the preseason game.
Yeah, preseason Broncos beat us. But,
Yeah, I know.
yeah, we're a nerd in all aspects, even sport nerd.
Sorry. I'm sticking with sports. I'm a Milwaukee Brewers fan. I've been lamenting the last 10 days because we've lost 8 straight games. But that's what's to be expected from the Brewers. That's why I'm a Brewers fan, because if they ever win, I can be like, I was rooting for them since whenever.
That was very hipster of you to be liking them before they were cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
To finish our video game conversation, though, you asked me last week if I am a completist in everything.
Well, I think we've proven that.
We've proven that, but embarrassingly so. You mentioned Arkham City.
Yes.
Okay. I have Arkham. I have all the Arkham games.
Okay. I almost bought Origins, but it was $25 used, and I'm like, that's not.
Check it out, though. I own them all sealed. Never played them.
Oh, that's terrible.
Here's why. My old roommate.
Had them all?
No.
Oh.
He bought me the first one for my birthday.
Okay.
Super cool. Well, now all these other ones came out. I have to finish my collection. So
But you're never going to play them.
I might get around to it eventually.
Okay. I'll lend you the first one.
Why? I own them all.
That you'll never play.
But I own them.
Okay.
I think I have a problem, people.
I think we both have a problem.
Speaking of a problem, let's have a drink.
All right. Okay, so should we move on to comics now
Yes,
that
because
we've covered video games?
we are trying to be stealthy this time.
Okay.
All right.
What did you get this week? I don't know if you want to run through the whole stack.
I
real
can't
quick.
go through my whole stack. I will go through a couple.
Okay.
And then I'll say the ones I'm going to review. A couple that I did get was Futurama comics,
Yes.
which
You told me that earlier, and I was surprised, not because I think it's a bad thing to read. I just didn't know you read it.
I read Futurama, and I just picked up the first issue of Bob's Burgers. Futurama comic is identical to the TV show.
Okay.
Like the humor on it, the writing is phenomenal. In fact, last issue was written by Jimmy Palmiotti, who
Okay.
some of you may be aware of. He just finished up his run on All-Star Western.
Yes. He also is writing... he's co-creating Harley Quinn right now
with his wife Amanda Connor.
And he's doing his Kickstarter. For those of you who do Kickstarter, Sex and Violence Volume 2 is out on Kickstarter right now, being funded.
Yep, because they have it's called Paper Films Productions, I believe it is. I own all their Kickstarters. Guys, support them. It's phenomenal writing. You get so many good things for being a Kickstarter for it. And I love his books. They're great. So Futurama is not always written by him, but it's just as good as the TV show.
Okay.
I'm going to skip over Deadpool and X-Force so you don't mock me. Rocket Raccoon, a bunch of X-Men titles, a bunch of Future Ends titles. They're doing the tie-ins, so every DC book is getting to Future's End.
Yes.
Which you're going to review one, I'm going to review one, and we will roll our eyes as if I was watching the iZombie bag at SDCC. That's
Okay.
a callback, people.
There you
In the
go.
industry, we call that a callback.
All right.
All right, Jay, what did you get, and what are you getting? Let's start with your review afterwards.
Okay, so I got, speaking of Futures End, I got the only... Actually, I got 2 Futures End, but the one I'll be talking about in a little bit is Futures End Green Lantern. I also got Batman Eternal 22. I got Grayson Futures End number 1, And then this is actually a really light week for me. So I decided to try something new, and I got The Names #1 out of Vertigo.
One of the very few Vertigo published titles that are not incorporated into DC.
Right, yeah. So that's the 4 books I got this week.
Okay, we both read Futures and Grayson.
Okay.
I kind of want to have a discussion about it more than a review. Because we talked about it while we were watching the game.
Yes.
And you're very on it.
Yeah, I think you enjoyed it a little more than I did.
I don't want to say I enjoyed it more.
You hated it a little less than I did.
There it is.
Okay.
So why don't you tell me what you think about it?
So my issue with this issue, they used a very popular device in literary and film functions, which is the flashback. You start out with a scene that's taking place, and you see something happening, some sort of action event, and they do a flashback to see how you get to that point, which is fine. So they start out where I'm trying to remember now. I think the first scene is where he tries to kill Jimmy. No.
The very first scene, spoiler alert, is Dick Grayson being hung and killed.
That's right, yes. So you see that, and there's another flashback to see how you get to that.
Right.
But instead of then coming back to the present, they flash back again.
Correct.
This is where my problem starts.
The book, as I mentioned, starts with the death and hanging of Dick Grayson.
The Russian hero.
The very last panel is the death of the Graysons. So
Right.
this book encompasses from the point of his parents dying, him becoming Robin, to how he died.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm okay with when they do these flashbacks is, like I said, they'll start with the point of action in the current.
Sure.
And they'll do a flashback. This is how we got there. And then maybe they'll come back to the current, and then they'll go back to the flashback. It'll kind of, volley between the two a little bit. This one never did that. It started with the most current scene and then jumped back and then jumped back and then jumped back. And it was like every other page, it was earlier until, like you said, it finally gets back to the point where Tony Zuko has sabotaged the trapeze act of the Flying Graysons back when Dick was, what are we calling him in New 52? 10, 12 when that happened?
It really depends on who you talk to, because everyone writes it differently. New 52 still needs to claim that.
So essentially it goes from 5 years from the future of current time when Dick Grayson's getting hung all the way back to where his parents first got killed.
Yes.
And he was taken in by Bruce Wayne.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, Futures End is going on. It is a weekly issue from DC, and it's encompassing 5 years in the future after the Earth 2 war. And these Futures End lenticular covers, because the 90s are back, these are essentially telling you how your heroes have died in those 5 years.
Right.
So the Green Lantern one is how Hal Jordan passes.
I did not get the lenticular cover because I was going to pay an extra $1 for it.
Oh.
Just throwing that out there. Collector, reader.
Anyways.
That
was
was
how Grayson died.
That was my big problem, is that I might as well have started with the back page and read it forward.
It probably would have made more sense. Yeah, for sure.
Because it wasn't always clear, per se, that, I mean, yes, it said earlier, but it wasn't always clear that you were jumping back to something that happened previously. I guess the second time it went to earlier, I thought I missed where it had jumped back to present, and I had to flip back, and
That got me at first, too. I did the finger lick to make sure, and I held up the page to the light.
Sure,
I'm like, nope, that's the next page. The thing about the Futures End that's really been bothering me is it's 5 years in the future. We all know in 5 years, none of this shit's going to actually happen.
No.
Not even close.
Well, and then you got to take into account, too, is this 5 years real time, 5 years comic time? Because 5 years comic time is 15, 20 years from now.
No, see, the 5 year comic time makes no sense. Bruce Wayne is aged 4 years. Meanwhile, Dick Grayson's aged 15. Tim Drake's aged 10. Damien's aged 2. Like, it makes no sense how comic book characters age. You have to go ahead and just toss that one out to the wind. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in the Terminator paradox.
Right.
How did he send back his own father to give birth to him if he never was sent back in the first place?
Right. Yeah.
So, Grayson, I own everything that's ever been published with the Nightwing title or the Grayson title. So for me, it was a sad ending. Not sad as in it hurt my feelings, sad as in it was poorly done. Ending to Dick Grayson, which doesn't actually have any bearing because it's not what's going to happen.
We've also seen him die twice in the last 6 months.
Yeah. Dude lives, man.
Right?
Like, he's got it coming.
The dude abides. Sorry, that would make more sense if this was a White Russian.
No, you know what? I liked it. It took me a second, but I liked it. All right. You read Futures End Green Lantern, which I read also. What do you got for
Futures End Green Lantern. So one of the things I've been complaining about, not on this show per se, but things I've been complaining about for the last year and a half about Green Lantern is it's event to event to event to event. And really that's DC wide and now Marvel wide. Marvel's been going... The thing with Marvel is they've been going entire line-wide events. They're coming up with Axis.
You are coming up on my gripe when I get to Original Sin, my next title.
So one of the things with Green Lantern is they've been doing, DC calls certain books, it's a family of titles. So you have the Bat family, you have the Green Lantern family, you have the Justice League family, the Superman family. Since Green Lantern, I want to say 25 of the last series of Green Lantern, pre-52, it's been event to event to event. It was Sinestro Corps War. There was the War of Light. There was...
Actually, so Sinestro Corps... Blackest Night, Brightest Day, War of Light, and then it got pulled in. Then they did Flashpoint, which brought us a new 52, which started the whole other war, the New Lantern, the Third Army, the blah 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 blah.
So it's family event after family event after family event, and we've gotten some really bad things from those family events. One of the recent ones we got from First Lantern was the Source Wall. And Relic. Sorry, that was not First Lantern. That was after First Lantern.
I don't know, man. There's so many.
It was the one where they found out that the power reservoir was going away.
It was after the First Lantern. It's not called the Relic series, but that's really what it is. But again,
Reckoning? I don't know.
It went through all the books again, though.
Yeah.
It was annoying.
It was Green Lantern. It was Green Lantern Corps. It was New Guardians. It was...
a one-off issue you had to buy to get the story.
I think there was even a tie into Larfleeze when that was a thing. Ugh. Anyways.
Definitely Red Lantern.
Red Lantern, yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
So the thing we get in this, it jumps 5 years. Hal Jordan has ceased to be a Green Lantern at this point.
He ceased to leave Earth. He still protects Earth as a Lantern.
I got the impression he wasn't even being a Lantern anymore because he wasn't wearing his ring at all.
But that's not uncommon. Like, he doesn't wear... We're splitting hairs at this point.
Anyway, so there was a big war of the world, as he refers to it, and he was off planet at the time, so he wasn't there to protect him. So he's Earthbound at this point. His dad appears to him as a Black Lantern,
right?
Which, for those of you who don't know, his dad died when he was a small child. His dad was a test pilot. He saw his dad crash. That's what prompted him to become a test pilot himself.
That's genius thinking. My dad fell off a ladder, so I climb every lantern I see.
It makes sense. So his dad's there. His dad's been dead for years and years and years. All of a sudden he's back. He tells him that he's a Black Lantern and that he's there because Black Hand, who used to be in charge of the Black Lanterns, is no longer in charge. It's now Kronos, whatever, who was an original Guardian who tried to see the beginning of time. Terrible character from a couple years ago. So the Black Lanterns are back now, and Hal Jordan is the only one that can stop them.
Correct.
Well, he's like, actually, I can't stop them on my own. I need help, and I know just the person to do it. And it's Relic, which is a terrible villain that showed up about 15 issues ago, who came from the previous incarnation of the universe.
Pre-Big Bang, essentially.
Yeah.
So the way they explain it was the Source Wall was depleted, and we have a new Big Bang,
right?
Which created our universe. He was from the pre-Big Bang.
Yeah. So Hal Jordan enlists the help of Relic to go fight the Black Lanterns. There's some weird stuff where they're combining two different color rings because that's the only way you can beat a Black Lantern.
Which that's from Blackest Night.
Right. Yeah. That's we've seen that before. Relic has these weird little replicators that can replicate the different colored lights from the emotional spectrum. So Hal Jordan gets all those close by him, surrounds himself by a bunch of Black Lanterns, and then makes a shield, a ball with his Green Lantern ring, and they go off and they kill the Black Lanterns. But he gets mortally wounded in the fight because why not? And then it's decided the only way to preserve him is to actually make him part of the Source Wall. So at the end of this, he's not really living. He's just part of the source wall.
They cryogenically froze him to a wall.
Yeah, essentially. He's bonded with the source of reality now.
Yeah, so, and like I mentioned on all these future, and actually I just turned off my phone too, so I'm really glad I won't hear that buzz anymore because we got the score.
There we go.
But in all these futures end, you find out that this is how they died.
Right.
The Earth 2-1.
Conveniently, they all die at the same time.
Regardless, to say, they're, like Jay had mentioned, you're going arc to arc to arc. The nice thing about futures end, at least, is if you don't want to read it, you don't have to read it.
You just don't get comics this month.
No. It doesn't take effect. Like Original Sin, if I don't want to read Original Sin, I don't have a choice because my X-Men titles are all tied in.
Right.
Futures End is taken care of in its own separate thing. So I could read Action Comics and never give two farts about.
But what I'm saying is you won't get an Action Comics this month.
Right. So this month is a bye month.
So all September comics from DC are tie-ins to Futures End.
But again, it doesn't, and you'll notice it's like issue 1. So it doesn't even, you're not even losing the number.
No.
Meanwhile, if I skipped Original Sin with Uncanny X-Men, I'm missing issues 23, 24, 25, and 26.
Right. So what's the worst event? Original Sin or Futures End?
Original Sin.
Okay.
Hands down. I started out excited for Original Sin and not caring about Futures End. I'm looking forward to reading Futures End every week. I am glad Original Sin is over because it took 8 months of my time. And Marvel, you're on my shit list.
Fair enough.
So let's discuss Original Sin number 8. There you go. I don't recall if I've discussed Original Sin or not. Overarching.
I think we might have touched on it the first episode.
Okay, Google it then, people. This is the last issue. You find out Nick Fury killed Uatu the Watcher. Someone else stole his eyes. His eyes contains all the knowledge Uatu's ever gained. It's with a bunch of villains that nobody cares about. The mindless ones, Dr. Midas.
So, sorry, not to interrupt you. I have a question, though.
Yeah.
Didn't they say Nick Fury wasn't the one that killed him? Didn't we think it was him? And then a couple issues ago, they said it wasn't him?
You knew Nick Fury wasn't the one who took the eyes.
Oh, okay.
And he wasn't, but he's the one who killed him.
Okay.
Anyways, it ends. It felt like it was an 8-issue run for Thor to lose his hammer. And this thing was so bad. I don't even remember how he lost his freaking hammer. I just know he's not worthy enough to hold the hammer anymore. I'm assuming it's because his Original Sin came out and it was something that made him not worthy. And now we have Bucky. I'm trying to stay positive about reviewing Original Sin. Nick Fury was the man on the moon, is what they called him. Nick Fury hasn't been on Earth since like the 70s. And you find out it's always been a life model decoy because he's been in space protecting the Earth from outside influences, aliens and everything else. He's been a space assassin. So now Bucky, the Winter Soldier, replaced him as the man on the moon. He's our new space assassin. New series comes out next month. And you also find out like Dum Dum Dugan was never been. He died in World War II. There's always been life model decoys. Like they are retconning some things to retcon some things that has been bad. Not great. The end was anticlimactic. I finished it with less than a care. I actually read it the second time because I realized it after I read it the first time. I cared so little.
You don't even remember?
I don't even remember it. So I had to read it a second time to do my due diligence to tell you people, don't read it. If you're holding out for the trade, hold out for a different trade.
Fair enough.
So yeah. Oh, and at the end, it turns out Nick Fury, 80-year-old dude who had super armor that saved him in space, is no longer dead. He's now called the Unseen, pretty much the new Uatu.
Well, that sounds terrible to me.
It is.
Makes me happy I'm not reading Marvel.
It makes me want to drop a lot of Marvel.
I wouldn't blame you.
Okay.
There's a lot of great indie stuff out there right now.
There's a lot of good DC stuff out there right now.
I mean, yeah, in comparison to Marvel, there's a lot of great DC stuff.
Which is breaking my heart because I'm like this on the DC and Marvel train. Anyways, your next book. So I want to hear about this one.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. Speaking of great indies out there, I read a new indie comic this week because like I said, I had very few books. I had no books in my box when I went to the shop this week because I didn't want the 3D covers. So I had to actually dig on the shelf to get the non-3D version of Green Lantern. But one book I did pick up which is very, very much like a book I was looking forward to that never came out by somehow the same people. It's called The Names. It's published by Vertigo. It's written by Peter Milligan and Fernandez. I can't find his first name. Is the artist. Kind of the story behind this book has to do with high-powered corporations and the things that they get away with because they have so much power. There was another book that was advertised by Vertigo a few months ago. It was supposed to come out a few months ago and never did. Kind of had the same concept.
You are looking hard for that dude's name, aren't you?
Leandro Fernandez. So he did the pencils and inks, and then Chris Peter did the colors. So the idea behind this book is you have these corporations, big mega corporations. I'm talking bigger than Microsoft. I'm talking about the conglomerates that really run everything. The names of the companies that we don't actually know. We're just like, oh yeah, I buy Kraft cheese. I don't.
Right. But you don't realize that Procter and Gamble owns almost everything in this world.
Exactly. And then you've got these hedge funds that control all the money. So it starts out, there's a guy working for one of these companies, and he's sitting down in a meeting with the owner of the company, and the owner of the company is like, hey, so I'm going to need you to go and go jump out that window right now. What? So this guy's like, I'm not going to do that. And the CEO of this company is like, well, no, you are, because we don't need you anymore, and nobody's going to ask questions because we've had your medical records doctored, so it looks like you've been seeing a therapist for a while for severe depression. So the guy jumps out the window. He doesn't feel like he really has much of a choice. His wife finds out that he died, and she's like, I don't get it. Why, if he was so depressed, why didn't he talk to me and all this stuff? She finds a video of her husband saying, hey, if I'm dead, it means they got to me. This wasn't me. This was the company I work for. They've got all these ulterior motives, and they're trying to control all this stuff and yada, yada. So the wife is going to look into this. And in the video, the husband says, oh, and if Sandro stops by, don't trust him. I don't know if he's part of this or not, but don't trust him. Well, this guy just happens to stop by.
Of course he did.
And the guy's like, hey, I know you must be grieving. If there's anything that I can do to help, let me know. And she freaks out. She's like, oh, what, you think you can just come over here and try to console me and have sex with me? I don't know if that's just the way she was trying to get him out of there or whatever. But she gets the guy out of her apartment and then finds out that he stole the phone that her husband had that had this video on it. So she's like, I need to get it back. So she goes over to meet with the guy and like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to freak out on you, whatever. Try to make it sound like she's just, emotionally upset. And then she accuses the guy of taking the phone. And he's like, oh yeah, you're right, I did. Because, your husband, we need to cover this up. Well, she stabs the guy in his neck to get the phone back. And she's like, you better tell me who's behind this. If you tell me who's behind it, I'll take the knife out and call 911. If you don't, you're going to die right here. And the guy gives the name of the CEO that had the guy jump out of the building.
Okay.
So she knows now that it's the company her husband worked for that caused it, and now she knows where to look for more information. So that was the end of the issue. I'm assuming what's going to happen now is she's going to go try to investigate and see exactly what shady dealings are happening with this company. And my guess is it's going to open up to sort of like an Illuminati type thing where it's these group of people that are really controlling everything that happens in commerce in the world. So it's really interesting. The art's pretty good. I really like the colors that Chris Peter did.
They look muted but vibrant at the same time. I'm looking at your screen. I like it.
It's a lot of muted colors. You've got scenes of the guy trying to attack the woman, and it's pretty muted, but she's wearing like a red dress, so you get like a pop of color there. So it's a really good color palette. It's a lot of mix of tones. Some of the earlier screens, it's a lot more like your pale blues and things like that show mourning. During the action scenes, it's a lot more warm color. So
yeah, it's earth tones.
Yeah, it's definitely not a realistic art style. You can tell it's definitely a cartoony art style, which is kind of different than what a lot of comics are going now with a lot of the computer-aided stuff. But I think it's really good.
It looks nice, and you made a good point about colors and the use of colors in comic books and everything else in movies, and I've actually never paid much attention to it until I was watching the Pacific Rim not documentary, but the commentary by Guillermo del Toro when he was talking about the colors that he used. And it really opened up my eyes. So I've been paying that attention to it. As you're telling me, and I'm looking, you flip through your Kindle, those colors, you don't realize the impact the colors in the background have until you start paying attention.
See, and I've always said that if I was ever going to get into actually working professionally in comics, colors is what I would want to do.
Okay.
Because, yeah, you've got a writer that can tell, like, he can write a story down. You've got the penciler and the inker that can kind of sketch some outlines. But you don't really get the feel of what's happening until you apply colors. And one of the places that I first noticed that was actually Astonishing X-Men. Joss Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men. I was looking through, I want to say it was issue 20, 21, somewhere in there. There's a scene where they're exploring an alien world.
Breaker World.
No, it's after Breaker World. It might. Oh, sorry, it was Ghost Boxes. It was the Ghost Boxes,
the
like
Ghost
2 issues.
Box. Really interesting art in that series.
Yeah, but they go to the other dimension through the Ghost Box, and you start really seeing. Oh, it's plants, but they're like purple and they're like red. Like the leaves are like purple and red. And these colors that we don't have here on Earth. And I'm like, that really lets me know that this is a foreign area.
It's different. It's not.
And then, you know, when they're exploring some of the tunnels, it's muted tones, and then they get out into the sun and they get more into vibrant colors. So just that sort of thing really sets the tone of what you're looking for.
It does, and it's nice because I always feel like sometimes it's subconscious. It happens, and you don't even
You're just like, oh, it's a comic book. It's in color. I don't get it.
But not only that, but like you said, like, oh, that purple means a different planet. So what? I'm moving on. Like you don't realize that. Oh, that actually had a big impact on what I'm reading here.
Right. And then if you go back and you read comics from the early '60s when everything was all the Bandai dots. Yeah. It's a lot different. You can tell how far technology allows to come at this point.
And even reading through collections, like you and I had discussed, I was considering buying the entire 1980 Flash collection.
Right.
If you start from that first issue, just looking at the covers to the newest issues, the transition of art, color, it's impressive. Yeah. And it really does tell a different story.
Right.
There's things that they can do now, and the things they do in digital comics, the transition slides are phenomenal.
And one of the things that I've noticed a lot in the last 2 or 3 years, especially with things that are colored digitally, is the way that they illustrate light.
Okay.
So, back in, anywhere from the 40s up to, I would say, the early 90s, when you were working with physical pens and paper, your light, it was, if it was like a normal flashlight, it was, kind of a medium yellow on the edges, and it got to more of a pale yellow in the middle. Now with digital, they're able to make it where the middle it's just no color. It's white.
Yes.
But when you print it on paper from that digital representation, it looks like you're actually staring into a flashlight. It looks like it's light. So things that we can do now, technology-wise, that we couldn't do 10, 15 years ago, it's amazing.
And it's not even when they print it on paper. I read a lot of comics now digitally.
Right, as do I.
I won't buy them digitally because I don't agree with paying the same price and not owning a physical copy. But I will enter the redemption code because I got this new tablet, the Galaxy S, and it looks so nice. Right. The quality of that screen looks better. The colors look crisper. The effects of the coloring look better than it does on paper.
Right. Yeah.
So reading that, I'm happy. But it's like you said, to your point, is the vibrant colors come out so much, and the effect of the flashlight or flash grenade really does take a much more effect.
Right. You almost have to shield your eyes just look at the page, which is crazy. But anyways, that's the names. Like I said, there's the first issue, Vertigo Comics. It's going to be coming out monthly. I'm curious, kind of like I was talking last week about the Fade Out, where it's a mystery. You're trying to uncover things. This is the same thing. It's leaving me want to know what's going to happen next. What does this corporation have its fingers in? Like, what is it controlling? And what is this wife going to figure out? What's going to happen to her while she's trying to figure out what's going on? So.
And it's awesome that they have that hook in the first issue, and you're looking forward to reading more.
Yeah.
One book that definitely had its hooks in me, and not so much anymore, is Uncanny X-Men.
Okay.
Now, I spoke to last week about Bendis, about how I read his issues. I'm like, Last page comes along, and I'm like, damn it, Bendis, I'm hooked. You got me. Uncanny X-Men. This was not one of those books this time.
Okay.
Brian, you let me down. We'll talk about it later. So essentially what happened was Uncanny X-Men Original Sin. every Marvel book has a tie-in to Original Sin. And this is, Charles Xavier's original sin. As you know, Cyclops got the Phoenix 5 power at the end, killed Charles Xavier.
Right.
So they're reading the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. You find out that he was married and is still married to Mystique. They never got a divorce, which I'm assuming they just threw that in there to make it more like the movie. Kind of.
What do you think she looked like at the wedding? Do you think she was blue skin? Or do you think she looked like Jennifer Lawrence?
I kind of want her to do 50-50. Like the Two-Face
like
version.
Two-Face.
Or like the Jennifer Lawrence nudes that leaked,
Well, there you go.
She very much like that, but blue.
Yeah.
Anyways, so she got... Damn it, I'm thinking about those nudes blue. We're going to take a quick break. Jay, edit this part out. Okay, we're back. So essentially, you find out the last will and testament. They read that he is married to Mystique, and then he did an unspeakable, horrible thing. And that's where issue 24 ends. And you're like, but what was it, Charles?
What did he do?
What did you do? Bendis, you son of a bitch. What happened? And then issue 25, you find out, you're like, oh, meh, I've done worse.
He's done worse.
He's definitely done worse. Every X-Men has done worse. You find out, back in the days of the original 5 X-Men, they were off on a mission, being all campy and, heroic back in the 60s. And there was a mutant who developed new powers that he couldn't control because he was just an 8 or 10-year-old boy, which is weird because mutant powers aren't supposed to manifest until puberty.
Right, but then there's Franklin Richards.
So they've actually retconned that in this issue, saying mutant powers become most effective, or your second mutation happens puberty. You can develop mutant powers anytime you want to.
Morrison.
Hence, Hope Summers,
right.
And now this kid. So this kid is like uber powerful. We're talking Jean Grey, Magneto power level, but he can't control it. So what happens is you find out his power is when he gets mad or angry, he summons energy from other dimensions that destroy our world. So he killed his parents without knowing. Like, he can't control it because he's an 8-year-old kid. So Charles appears to him, and the kid's like, you're a stranger danger, stay away from me. Like, literally the phrase stranger danger is in here.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I'm all like, what? Good for you. Zach Morris taught this kid what's up.
Oh, jeez.
So Charles then presents himself as an 8-year-old boy. Later, they befriend each other. Charles gets in close with this kid, turns off his power, essentially like zaps a part of gives him a mutant lobotomy, so he doesn't know he's a mutant, and he erases the kid's past, so he doesn't remember killing his parents, doesn't remember destroying a city, his home. And every now and then Charles checks in on this kid as the projection of the kid the same age. So they essentially kind of grow up together. And then the kid turns out to be early teens, starts to remember all these things, and begs Charles to kill him because he doesn't want this power. He doesn't want to remember. And Charles is like, I won't kill you, but I'll give you another mutant lobotomy. So he lobotomizes him again, makes him forget what had happened before his powers, makes him forget he has powers, and that's his big sin. And now he's telling Cyclops and Logan, it's now your responsibility to check on this boy and make sure he's okay. And then, of course, the last panel turns out kid's not. Dude's got his powers. He's trying to figure them out, and that's where the book ends. It's fine enough for a story, but to make that the big hook of like, this is the deepest, darkest secret ever from Charles Xavier.
Well, right. It's like I was saying earlier, if you go back and you read like the original 66 issues of the X-Men from the 60s, he's mind wiping people left and right. So, So if his biggest sin is that he mind wiped some kid who could potentially be an evil mutant, how is that any different than him mind wiping any of the other villains the X-Men faced?
It's completely not. And all the X-Men are just like in shock and awe, like they can't believe that he could possibly ever do this. And Charles is explaining to them, look it. This was back before S.H.I.E.L.D. was on our side, before we could turn to the Avengers, before mutants had any help. We were considered second-tier citizens. People hated us. They feared us. If they knew somebody of this power existed and couldn't control it, they would fear us more. I did this for the good of all mutant kind.
Could he not get his buddy Amos Duncan to help him out? Do you remember Amos Duncan?
Barely.
The X-Men in the first 20 or so issues had a friend in the CIA named Amos Duncan who helped them out with weird stuff all the time.
Sure. And that's the character you see in the First Class movies.
Exactly.
But when you hear him explain it, you're like, oh, well, that makes complete sense and you did the right thing. And they all agree he did the right thing, but it's still this horrible thing. How could he? So, meh. Again, like I said, I'll see where it goes. Essentially, this kid's going to turn out to be some villain. They're going to stop him because what? He's going to destroy all of the X-Men in upcoming? No. They're going to stop him, and it's kind of weak sauce.
This is about the equivalent of eating an extra communion wafer because you forgot lunch that day.
What?
I'm saying it's not that big of a deal.
Oh.
I ate an extra cracker. Oh, I prevented a supervillain from emerging. It's good.
Yeah,
It's like shooting Hitler as a baby.
I would totally shoot Hitler if he was a baby.
Right?
Oh my god.
If you knew what he was going to become.
Oh, yeah. And then that way Broseph Stalin wouldn't be so bad.
There you go.
Yeah, no, please. That's the only books I'm going to review because, again, we're trying to save on time. Do you have a third you'd want to talk about?
I will quickly mention a couple things about Batman Eternal that I appreciated this week.
Oh!
So, you're not reading Batman Eternal.
I'm not, but the big baddie was revealed.
The big baddie was revealed last week, and it's Hush. And Batman actually does call him Hush this week.
Oh.
He does.
Okay.
He figures out who the big bad is. He's like, it can only be one person. And you see a text box with quotations around it. Hush. So he does call him Hush. But the thing that I really liked about the issue this week, last week, Hush broke into the Wayne Manor and drugged Alfred.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay. So as Alfred's passing out, he says, grandfather clock, 10:48. What 10:48 is if you turn the grandfather clock in the study to 10:48, that's when it opens up and leads to the doorway to go down into the Batcave.
Because that's when Bruce's parents were killed. That was the time set to the grandfather clock.
So his Alfred's daughter has been staying with them at the manor.
Okay.
Which is weird. She was like MI6 or some British Secret Service, whatever.
So was he. So
yeah. So she's all mad at him. She's like, why did you possibly give up your life to come be a butler to the Waynes? Like how could you choose that life of servitude over, having a life with your family and that sort of thing? So as he's passing out, he says 10:48. She figures out in this issue that means, hey, go turn the clock to 10:48. So she does it. She gets down to the Batcave. Batman's dealing with another villain called the Architect, who's trying to blow up buildings in downtown Gotham.
I see your shirt from the old Adam West Batman. I hear the villain, the Architect. I see somebody running around with a protractor in a T-bar hitting people.
No, so he had apparently been manipulating construction on this new building that Wayne Corp is building, and got it to exactly how he wanted it. So now the structure of it is essentially now don't laugh, it's a tuning fork.
God damn it.
I know. Might as well be Egghead. But so he does something to set off the vibrations on the tuning forks, and the building's collapsing. So Batman calls back to the Batcave to try to get assistance. He's been trying to call back to the Batcave for a while, but he hasn't been getting any response.
But now Alfred's daughter picks up.
So in the field, he calls Alfred Penny One. Penny One is Alfred's field name, essentially, so that he's not like, hey, Alfred Pennyworth. So Penny One. So his daughter shows up on the screen as Batman's trying to call him. He's like, what are you doing? He's like all freaking out. And she's like, well, somebody snuck in and drugged Alfred. So I found the way. He told me how to get in here. I found the way. So he starts calling her Penny 2.
Of course he does.
I can appreciate that. I thought that was very well done because she's obviously, he can't call her, hey, whatever your name. I don't even remember her name is. So he gives her a code name. So I don't know if you read the issue of Batman. I want to say it was 28 where they jumped ahead. It wasn't necessarily 5 years in the future, but they did a flash forward.
Right after the 0 year.
It was, I think, actually in the middle of 0 year.
Okay, yeah.
So that's when you see Bluebird, not Bluebird. Yeah, Bluebird is the new Robin, whatever. And there's somebody else in the Batcave running the controls.
And that must be Penny 2.
I'm thinking that's going to be Penny 2.
Okay.
So I think this is where that's tying into.
Because we also know that at some point during Batman Eternal, the spoiler is the spoiler again.
Right. Yeah, we saw her the first time last issue.
But we don't know for sure, but
it's theorized.
She's going to be the new Robin.
I think Harper Rowe's going to be the new Robin.
Do you? She's Bluebird, though.
I don't think there's going to... Okay, so you're saying... Sorry. You're saying that Stephanie Brown's going to be Robin and then there will be a separate Bluebird.
Yes.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I don't think there's going to be an ongoing Robin.
Oh?
I think it will be Bluebird instead.
Okay. The only reason I have a hesitation is because they announced there will be a new Robin.
But I'm
Like,
not
it's
sure
not the first time they've used clever marketing.
I'm not sure it's going to be ongoing. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Robin for a few issues and they quit or died again or something.
It's happened to Stephanie Brown before.
Right. I could totally see there being a new Robin and Batman not liking the person and being like, I can't do it because he's still mourning Damien's death.
Okay. Well, no.
Which
If
I know
that's-
he's not really dead. Or staying dead.
Right. But if that's his case, Scott Snyder, let's just stop for a moment. Let's talk to Scott. Scott, hi, it's Adrian. We met a couple times, most recently in San Diego. Anyways, I'm sure you remember me. Duh, right?
Right. Why not?
Come on.
Who could forget you?
Oh my God, thank you. Don't do that. Look it. That's exactly what happened when Stephanie Brown became Robin the first time. He couldn't accept it because Tim Drake wasn't Robin anymore. He wasn't ready to move on, and it killed her. It's lazy writing if you write the exact same fucking story that happened, dude. That's just lazy. Don't do it.
Also, if you do it, I won't be surprised.
Okay, no, nobody's going to be surprised by this.
No.
Speaking of not lazy writing, it has been, actually, I don't know what time we started, but whatever length it's been, and we haven't mentioned Charles Soule. It's weird to go a podcast without talking about him.
There is some news about Charles
There
Soule.
is some news about him. Let's talk about him. He is now a Marvel exclusive writer.
Mostly exclusive.
Yes. Well, the announcement was he's a Marvel exclusive writer. As it turns out, he will be leaving any writing he has at DC Comics by March 2015. He's writing
Red Lanterns.
Red Lanterns. He's doing some Batman stuff. And he's doing Superman Doom, which is going on right now.
Right.
And he has a hand in the new Superman Weekly title, like the Batman Eternal Future's End.
Right.
So he's leaving all that behind to become a Marvel exclusive writer. What is the one exception?
Letter 44.
Bingo.
Which I'm fine with because I love that book.
So good.
So being that it's not direct competition per se, because Letter 44 comes out from Oni, Marvel made the caveat of, oh, you've got this creator-owned book that you're publishing over there. That's fine. We're cool with that.
You can keep doing that one. But everything else, cut it out. So
we'll see. I'm not reading any of the other DC titles. I'm reading Red Lanterns. We'll see what happens after it's done. I'm curious to who's going to take over after that. But
Cullen Bunn, he's writing everything else.
I know he's becoming the new Charles Soule.
I laugh because it's so true.
Right, he's got Sinestro. He's got
Sinestro.
Magneto.
He's got Magneto.
He's going to start Lobo.
He's going to start Lobo next month.
He's still doing the Sixth Gun over at, I want to say that's at Dark Horse.
Yeah.
So I think he's got one more that he's doing too. So, I mean, good for him. Share the wealth, I guess, but good for him.
But Charles Soule, congratulations, man.
There you go. So I know he's going to be writing Death of Wolverine.
Yes, Death of Wolverine issue number 1 came out yesterday.
So do we know anything else he's going to be doing over there? I know he's doing
Inhuman.
Inhuman, yes.
He's doing Inhuman. I'm sure he'll be doing plenty of Axis, Marvel's new crossover event, because they just had one ended this week. Why not start another one next week?
Who's taking over? What is it? Avengers from Hickman? Do we know who's taking that over? Maybe he'll take over one of those.
I don't care.
Okay.
To be honest with you, Hickman stuff's been really good. I saw all the promo stuff for the new Avengers. I read who's doing it, and I was like, dropping them.
Okay.
So I'll probably read them just to read them. I'll read one of the reader copies of it.
Right.
But that's not going to be one that I'm diligent about.
Okay.
Aside from that, I don't have anything else left to say, Jay.
No, I got nothing. I've reviewed all 4 of the comics because I talked about Grace. All 4 of the comics I read this week I talked about. All right.
No, we're on there. I am going to have a different review next week on top of my new comics. I picked up the first Constantine trade. I'm kind of excited about it. I never read Hellraiser religiously, but I really enjoy what I read. So I'm going to review the entire trade next week as well as my new comics. So until then, this is the end of week 3. We'll see you next week for week 4. We apologize for being late. Labor Day kind of pushed us all back a week. And
that's my fault, too.
I didn't want to throw you under the bus.
I work at a job where I deal with international airlines. I had to have a late conference call on Wednesday night with Singapore Airlines.
Plus PAX.
Yeah, PAX. So, but yeah, so we will see you guys again next week at our back to our regular scheduled time. Thanks for tuning in.
Would it be the same bat time, same bat channel?
It would, in fact, be the
Yes.
same bat time, same bat channel.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks.